you doing, buddy?
I'm doing really well. How are you, Scott?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. I really am. Kind of bonus episode because we're doing things a little bit differently on this recording. We're going to talk everything Frightfest.
Yeah, and I thought it was a great weekend.
Yeah, I did, mate. I really enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it, and I thought they did really as best as you can do to do a kind of film festival in lockdown effectively.
Is it the first digital festival you've done?
Yes.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, I haven't. I know there's been a few others.
I mean, I did notice when I bought my films, and when you go into your library, it was advertising. This third-party website was advertising all these other film festivals that they run as well. So I might. I mean, I enjoyed Frightfest so much online. I might be inclined to check out some of the others as well.
Same. I really liked it. I really liked it. And one of the aspects I will touch on off the top is when me and you were originally discussing if we were going to do the digital version of Frightfest. We both have been to the physical event. We're both fans of the physical event, but obviously, digital is a little bit different. I understand why some festivals will do it and have been very successful with that. And then I understand why other festivals, including our very own Black Sunday Film Festival, we've decided to push our event until the end of January 2021.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any right or wrong answer with it, but I was very, very skeptical of how an event as big as Frightfest, where the social interaction is as important, if not more important sometimes than the films themselves, how this would work. And one of the things me and you said from the get-go was, okay, we're going to do it. We're going to make our next episode of Things That Go Bump in a Night a full Frightfest episode. We're going to change up the format a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that we were a little bit up in the air about was, would it be better if we could choose to watch the films whenever we want? So you get like your 4-day pass. You can just put them on whenever you want and watch whatever you want, as was the case with the short film showcases, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
Or the way they did do it, where you have set times for your films. Now, we both agreed that we thought it would be more beneficial and better for us if we could just watch them when we want. I have actually done a complete 360 on that.
Seriously?
Yeah. I tell you why. It was the first day, right? The very first day, and all day I was excited for the time that first film started. And I made sure that, I had all my work for the day done. I was sitting down. I had tested my laptop because I was watching them through the laptop. I was casting it via Chromecast to my TV. So I wanted to make sure that worked, get all that up and running. And yeah, man, I was really excited for when that went. And then the real benefit of having a strict time for me was where I was tweeting out what I was watching before and after the films. You did have some form of social interaction.
That aspect was good. Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Because me and you were doing that for one, which, to be fair, we probably would have anyway, because for this podcast, we probably would have watched stuff at the same time and been speaking to each other. But I really like the idea of the random element of other people joining the conversation and talking to us. I thought that was really cool. I think,
I mean, I think I felt that for the first film. The first film that I watched, I certainly felt, seeing the idents as well and thinking, I know that person. I know them. But for me, I think I would have been inclined to spend more money on more films if I had longer to watch them, because my time was so limited that weekend that I had to be really selective about what I could watch because of the timings. So I didn't buy the festival pass. I think I bought just under the price of the festival pass.
Yeah.
Had I the option to watch even some of them, maybe not, like it might have been like the premieres, the UK premieres, it's just that deal and done. Of course. Some of the other ones, if I had the opportunity to watch them over the course of the weekend, then I probably would have happily paid for the festival pass, because I knew I would have got the value from it. And we spoke about this briefly before we came on, but there was a couple of films I really would have loved to have been able to see again.
Of course, yeah.
Almost like the next day I would have watched them again. Yeah.
Well, I don't disagree with you either. Like, despite what I've said, I don't disagree with you, because actually there was, on the Saturday, I knew that I wasn't going to make the first film, and I think I actually ended up missing 2 films because I just didn't get home in time. And then on the Sunday as well, I had planned to do the whole day Sunday, and then I had to go out in the morning, so I ended up missing the first 1 or 2 films of Sunday as well. So yeah, I definitely miss stuff that I plan on watching because of that format, but I just think from a social point of view, it worked quite well. It worked really well, actually.
It's one of those things where it's not going to please everyone, is it? Because it's so different. You know, at the end of the day, you wouldn't be able to do that had you been at the physical weekend.
Yes,
You know,
of
it
course.
would have been you're in and you're out, and that's that.
Yeah. So let's get into it, man. What was the so shall we start with the short film showcases?
I loved them.
Yeah, I mean they're always the highlight of the festival for me, if I'm honest. I come out with 1 or 2 features that are real standouts for me, as I did with this digital edition. But the shorts, I just love short film showcases because I feel like you're always going to get quite a lot you like. You're going to get stuff you don't like, and that's fine, right? Because there's such a mix. You know, I found that with this, some films that I really liked, other people didn't really like, and then films that weren't for me, other people really liked. But I love that. I love that dynamic. I love the difference in that. I'm not someone that subscribes to this. You have to like everything, and if you don't like it, it's a bad film. Like, no, not really. Like, it's just not for you, right? It doesn't appeal to your
Yeah.
taste. So, with that said, Short Film Showcase 1. What stood out for you?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I wasn't even going to go for the short film showcases. It was on your recommendation, so thank you for that because I wasn't going to go for them. Really, really pleased that I did. And as you said, you know, we're both the same. We don't really want to dwell on the things we didn't like. That's not fair. But there was stuff I didn't like. Let's be clear on that. But there was a lot that I did like, and I've picked 3 from each of the showcases of ones that really stood out for me. The first one on the short film showcase one was Breakfast by Paul Beattie, which was the Australian zombie. You know, the mum's unwell. She gets up and she's cooking. I really liked that film, but not because of the zombie element, which we've seen many times. What I loved about the film was the sound. I really, really loved the way when she was eating that it was so over the top, like the crunch of the toast, the noise of her jaw moving. That's what really made me take notice. And I mentioned to you before, the films that I really liked. I watched a couple of times because we had the luxury of watching them whenever we want. Just another shout for that. But we at first I wasn't sure. Second time I watched it, I thought, no, I've got to bring it up because I thought it was acted very well and I thought it was shot very well. Nothing original with the story whatsoever.
Yeah.
But the way it was done, I really enjoyed, and I thought it was worth mentioning on that basis for the way they played with sound. It was so emotive and graphic. The sound, I can hear her eating the toast now. It was so loud. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the sound design, and also shout out for the cinematography of that film as well. I think those combinations, and then the way it was directed, the way it was all brought together, was really, really well done. I think we got a lot of zombie content, a lot of virus content over the course of this digital edition, which let's be honest, we're gonna get a lot of isolation stuff, a lot of zombie stuff, a lot of virus stuff. I do hope that we do start seeing something a little bit different in that vein. I think there is a way to do isolation stories that are different and don't rely on zombies. Shout out to the Shudder original film Host. It was by a couple of English filmmakers, which was again great, right? It was an isolation film, but it was a seance over Zoom, and it was a nice twist on that, and that's why I think you can do something original and different. But in terms of what I did like about this short, the lighting was incredible. I think the overall direction was incredible. I think the acting was really well, really brought into the acting. But yeah, that sound design, man.
Do you know what I was when when the son walks in on the mum at the end, having young kids myself, who have done acting. And I just kept thinking, that's horrific that he's standing there seeing what's going on. But then my brain kicks in and says, no, of course he's not seeing it. They're just filming his face.
Yeah, just show
He can't see what the mum's doing. But I just kept thinking, oh, well, I wouldn't have sent my son to do that.
Yeah.
So the next one I really liked, and I knew was going to like it straight away, was Tarrare, the animation. And I don't know if you know, but this is based on a true story. He was a French showman he had a condition where he just had an insatiable hunger. He just could
Right.
not. Doesn't matter how much he ate, he just could not stop eating. And the short film loosely follows that. So the reality is, he wasn't big, he wasn't fat,
Yeah.
overweight. His stomach got incredibly distended when he ate, and then
Wow.
he would keep eating. He enrolled in the French army, and they quadrupled his rations to feed him. And apparently, he reeked, and the other soldiers did not want
Right.
him there. But the scientists and the medical people in the army wanted to study him. It was quite interesting. He done all sorts of things. He swallowed a message, secret message, and smuggled it into Prussia. And then at the end, which actually plays into what happens in the short film, he went into a hospital, and there was rumours of a baby going missing, and there was rumours that
Wow.
he
Okay.
might have eaten it. And I think this was the 1700s at some point, possibly early 1800s.
Wow. Interesting.
I like this short film because essentially, what was it? It was a single static picture. That's all it was, just one
Yeah.
picture
Yeah.
where they moved it around the screen a little bit, and a very cool voice narrating this poem about Tarrare and his life, with some vocal effects on it and the text coming up on the screen, and that's all it was. And despite that, it really caught my imagination. It really engaged me. And I know that there's been some criticism of this short
Yeah.
film,
Yeah.
but for
I mean,
me,
I completely agree with you, man. For me, it works. It really, really works. It really stands out. But like you said, there was some disagreement on this film. This is actually one of the short films throughout both Short Film Showcase 1 and 2 where a lot of hate, but you also had a lot of love from what I saw. But here's what I say, man. I think that's doing something right because out of all the short films, it had people talking more than anything else.
yeah, I
And that
just
really works for me.
I was surprised at how much it captured me with what was compared to some of the others on here is going to be quite a basic production. I'm not saying it wasn't hard work. I'm sure it was, but it was just a picture and a narrator at the end of the day, and it really grabbed me. I thought it was
Yeah,
really, really good.
I completely agree. It really, really grabbed me.
So that was by Brian Gillespie. So well done, Brian. I thought it was great.
Yeah, definitely. And if you can check that out, find it anywhere else, definitely do. I think it's quite a polarizing short, but
Mm.
again, I feel that's doing something right.
Got
I
to
feel
watch
like,
it. Do you know
yeah,
what? In another place, another time, that might have been my creepy link of the week.
yes,
If we hadn't seen it
yes,
together, that's the sort of thing I like. Last one for me on Showcase One was Finn Callan's Guest, which
yes.
was about a disturbed young lady who sees this haunting figure following her around, breaks into someone's house, and so distraught by being haunted by this figure that she mutilates herself to stop experiencing it. First time I watched it through, I didn't like it.
Okay,
Um,
interesting.
but I watched it again. And I watched it more with the intro. And I took because the director done a bit of an odd intro to it where he was
Yeah, he
wearing an
did.
old
Yeah,
mask. I'm not sure what that was about.
yeah,
Um, but I took more notice of that this time, and he introduced it as based on a recurring nightmare he used to have. And once I'd caught hold of that, you see this figure, I could feel the nightmare that he was having.
yeah.
You don't know if this figure's really there. You don't know whether it's just in her mind. But no matter where she goes and where she looks, she's seeing this silent person staring at her. I thought it was quite smart actually, and again, I thought it was well acted, well shot. I thought it was really good.
Guest for me was one of the standouts at the weekend. I've got two standouts, one from each showcase. This was the standout for me in Short Film Showcase 1, purely because it's a very simple setup, two characters, and it's done to perfection because it doesn't worry too much about building out the world in a very complicated way. It does it very, very effectively in the setup and the presentation. Again, I think the direction of this is flawless. I think the creation of the monster is outstanding.
Yeah,
It's
because
so
it wasn't scary. It was unsettling, wasn't it?
it was unsettling. That's the perfect word. It was unsettling. I thought it really tapped into a look that is quite hot at a minute. Like that's kind of a look you see, like the big round eyes, the very slender face. You know, it's very creepy pasta
Yeah,
esque. You know,
like
you see.
Salad Fingers and
Yeah,
Tim Burton
salad fingers
characters,
and
all
stuff
that
like. Yeah,
kind of
there's a
thing.
little bit of a Slender Man in there and
Yeah,
stuff like. You know, it's that's really grabbing people's imagination at the minute, and I feel like they done such a good job at that. They just presented this simple story to perfection, to absolute perfection. And I feel like it was so unsettling. It was so unsettling. It wasn't built on jump scares. It wasn't built on, fast pace cuts to, or somewhere you're jumping out your seat. It literally cuts to quite a long shot of the monster and just holds it. And it's
it
like you
holds
said,
it. It holds it
unsettling.
too long. I mean, too long in times. It works brilliantly, but too long, like you get quite uncomfortable
Yeah,
looking at it.
yeah. But that's perfect, right? And
That
that's
was
why I
great.
feel
It was
just
great.
everything about this. I thought I don't remember the actress's name, but I thought she done an outstanding job. I feel like the director done an outstanding job. The editing was
Yeah.
perfect as well. I feel like it was edited really, really well. Yeah, man, it just really worked for me.
And if I
I
didn't
can't
mention it,
recommend that short enough.
before we move on to Short Film Showcase 2, just an honourable mention for me would be A Bit of Fun by Florence Kosky, which was
Hell yeah.
a 90s seance, three housemates doing a kind of witchcraft seance to contact the spirit haunting their flat. Don't want to give away the ending, but again, I really, really enjoyed this one. Another great one to check out.
I really, really enjoyed this short, and it had my favourite shot. Do you know,
Can I,
it might have been
before
my
you
favourite
say
shot of
it,
the weekend.
before you say it, because you just reminded me, there was a shot in that I loved. So I
Yeah,
just wonder if it's the same one.
yeah,
When the final girl
yeah.
or
Without any
is
spoilers.
standing there,
Yeah.
you see someone else in the mirror.
Yes. Yes. It's honestly,
So clever. I loved it.
it might be my favourite shot
It
of
was
the.
so
There's a
really.
couple of shots from a few films that really, really work for me, and I am such a whore for a good shot.
It was
And
fantastic, and
oh
what
my
it
god, man.
meant as well. I thought it was.
And it
It was
really
what I
works
noticed
for me.
straight away. I noticed it, and it was. I wasn't expecting it
No,
as
it
well.
really works for me because they don't make a big deal out of it either.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Apart from face close-ups, it doesn't really deviate from that one
No,
angle.
no, it's quiet. There's a lot of long and wide shots, and
Mm.
they genuinely stick to that. But I thought it was so well done. I thought it was very, very clever. And that one shot was, it's so understated that you could miss it. You could easily miss
Oh
it,
yeah,
and I love that. I just
it was
absolutely
brilliant.
love it. And it's one of those like holy shit moments when you notice it.
Yeah,
It just fucking takes you out, man. It's
that's really
so good.
cool that we noticed the same thing because
Yeah,
I genuinely I thought, man, that's really cool.
yeah, that really, really worked for me. I absolutely adored that shot, man. So yeah, like great. I would actually probably put that in my top three, to be
Yeah.
honest, of short film showcase one. Definitely, that short really, really stood out for me.
Would you remove breakfast from that
Yes,
to make
yes,
way
I
for
think I
Big
would.
Fun?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I would remove breakfast from it just purely because you know what? It's nothing against breakfast. I just feel like as a whole, that weekend I just watched so many zombie films
Yeah.
that by the time I come to watching short film showcase one, I was kind of tapped out already.
Mm.
And then to be honest with you, after that there was even more zombie stuff. There was like a zombie film in short film showcase 2 as well, right?
There was one with a man and a woman
Yeah.
in a truck. There
Yeah.
was one where a girl was supposedly having the antidote.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of that kind of thing.
And then there was obviously a couple of the features
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well. And I was just tapped out. I was just tapped out.
Short Film Showcase 2.
Yes.
I've got apologies, I don't know where it's from. It's not in English, and the director is known only as Kiggs was Wash, and I know you really enjoyed this. So,
Yes.
do you want to introduce this one?
Yeah, I think this was my favourite short film of the entire weekend.
It was
And
very good.
the biggest surprise to me is I haven't seen a lot of people talk about this one. And that is crazy to me. I mean, maybe it is out there and I've just missed it, but this worked for me. Everything about this worked. So it basically follows a mother, I believe.
Yeah.
And she's obviously distressed. There's obviously something going on. It takes place in a basement, very dark, very dingy, and sitting in front of her is a washing machine that's got gaffer tape all around it. The washing machine's on, and something is inside, and yeah, it kind of plays on that. That's kind of where I'm going to leave it. But I thought the setup for this was like out of the gate, right? It was just really intriguing. Atmosphere, turned up to 11. The camera movements and the direction towards the washing machine to create the intrigue there of like, okay, what is going on here?
Yeah.
That was really, really well done. As a tension piece, absolutely brilliant. And then I feel, again, no spoilers, but the way in which it ends just really worked for me. Really, really worked for me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think that just to add to that, what I really liked as well was how it was open to interpretation as to what you'd just seen as well, because it wasn't it, I'm not entirely sure what went on in that short film, but not in a confusing way. I wasn't confused. I think a lot is left to the imagination. It's open to interpretation what you've just seen. For example, without giving it away, something happens right at the beginning that you don't see, you hear off camera. Turns out maybe what happened isn't what you think happened. And I quite like that. I thought it really kind of switched round,
I
halfway
think
through
that's
as
why I really
well.
like it.
It was good.
Yeah, I'm a big, big fan of stuff that's left open and stuff that the audience can buy into and try and work out,
Mm,
what's going on, what's happening. And this just does it all. This just
yeah.
works really, really well for that. And it stays with you. I
Oh
always
yeah,
find
completely.
that's really important in
I
shorts or
think
features.
you could probably watch it again and gain a different interpretation of what you've seen, and it wouldn't be right or wrong. It would just be, what you're bringing to it at that
Yes.
point. I don't think necessarily, unless the director ever explicitly says this is what's happening, you're never going to know, and that's great because it is what you think it is.
Yeah. Really, really well, man. So what's your second one?
Second one, and I keep changing my mind. So the last two for me, I keep switching between which was my favourite short film of all of them. At the moment, I think it's going to be the last one I mentioned, but the very close second then is Death Walks on Nitrate by
Yeah.
Kevin Fermini. Really love this kind of. Ah man, it's filmed on Super 8 and it's about a young woman who is taking photographs and she photographs an elderly woman's death. And it kind of all escalates from there. But it was very, very over the top, very 70s, very, you know, Tarantino-esque. It reminded me a bit of if Tarantino made an Amicus production, the old
Yeah.
70s production company. I
Yeah.
thought it was great. I thought it was really, really good. A couple of niggling bits I didn't like, but that was personal taste. But overall, I really enjoyed it, and I think it was quite unique amongst all of the short films.
I think that's a great way to describe it. I think it was very unique. It was an homage to 70s Italian horror
Yes.
cinema, and it done that to perfection, I thought. But it didn't just pay homage. It done something a little bit different, and it kind of mixed up the genre a little bit, and I really like that. I feel
Mm,
like it actually added a little something else because when it first started, it didn't have me hooked, but as it went on, it did, and I feel like that's the mark of a really, really good film. And
mm.
it just worked for me. It knew exactly what it was. It knew exactly what it wanted to do, and it moved ahead to execute that to the best of
I
their
mean
ability.
the special effects, the music,
Yeah,
the lighting, the shots. I loved it all. I
yeah.
mean,
I love the way it looked. I
some
love
of
the
the
way it
effects
sounded.
were so over the top silly, but they were supposed to be. It wasn't
Yeah,
that they run
yeah.
out of money. It did what it was supposed to do. And I found it quite very creepy as well. It's the sort of thing that would probably, make me look over my shoulder if I was watching that alone at night.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it.
yeah, yeah, man. I have to agree. I really have to agree.
So before I get to which at the moment is going to be my favourite short
Yeah.
film. My honourable mention for this one is Werewolf, which I really, really enjoyed. Kind of comedy horror based around a card game. That was by Markus Meedt, and don't know the actor's name, but there's the character Kenneth in there who narrates the game that they're playing at this kind of dinner party that they're having is fantastic. I found it really funny, really well acted, great dialogue. The lighting and effects whenever Kenneth spoke was really, really cool. I thought it was great.
I have to agree. I think the setup for this one was outstanding. I thought it was a really smart screenplay. That the switch in the lighting and the setup when Kenneth is shown on screen, opposed to the other cast members, is great. It's just really, really great. Really,
It
really fun.
actually it reminded me of a little bit like it was a very short Inside Number 9 episode, and I could see Steve Pemberton playing
Oh,
Kenneth. I
okay.
thought it
Yeah.
was very clever. I think, not to be too critical, but for me, the reason why I didn't make my top three, I wanted more from the ending. Not going to give away the ending, but wasn't. I kind of saw it coming from a mile off, and when I did see it, I wanted more. So I think that's why it didn't make the top three for me.
Yeah, I think I have to agree on that. I think and I don't know if it was just because this start and the middle was so good that
Yeah,
the
it
ending
was
fell a
fantastic.
little bit flat for me. But by no means did it make it a bad film. It's
No,
still a great film, and I would definitely
I'm sure.
suggest that you seek it out
Yeah,
if you're into short horror films, especially short
definitely.
horror comedy. I thought it's done it better than most films do it. But yeah, I agree. I would have liked just a bit more from that ending.
I think
I
based
actually
on
wouldn't. I didn't want this to end.
yeah, well, exactly. And I mean, based on this, what I did enjoy about the short, I definitely want to see more of Marcus's work. I've been meaning to, see if I can find what else he's done because he seems like a really smart director. And yeah, I would have liked more at the end.
Yeah, definitely one to seek out. Definitely one that, yeah, if we can find it, if it goes online at some point, yeah, we'll definitely share it. I think a lot of people will get a kick out of it. So go
Yeah,
on.
my top one was The Motorist by Ciaran Lyons.
Ooh, okay.
Um, and I can't recall. It's been a few days now since I watched it, and I can't remember if it's set. I think it's set in Ireland, rural Ireland. I could be wrong. It could be Scotland
I believe
actually.
so. I believe
Um,
it was Ireland. I mean, in my head, it's Ireland. So
yeah, I think
yeah,
so. And it was. I really love folk horror. It was very much a folk horror,
yeah.
very British. There's a strange pagan community. I might have enjoyed it so much because I just come off of watching Apostle as well on Netflix, which I really enjoyed. But anyway,
Oh right, yeah,
um,
okay.
so The Motorist is about a guy who seemingly has run over a young member of this community, and the community, as you can imagine, are not best pleased. And as is such in these kind of remote communities, they're not interested in calling the police, otherwise it wouldn't have been
Yeah,
much of a short horror film. And they want retribution. And I think the dialogue, the shooting of it, the acting was really, really good. And when retribution comes, it completely, completely was not what I was expecting. And I think I'm not going to give it away, but on paper, it to me wouldn't sound like it worked. But when I saw it, it blew me away. I thought it was great. I thought what they did was very, very cleverly done. And it's one that I watched a couple of times. I really enjoyed it, and I
yeah.
enjoyed it more each time I watched it.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so I only watched this one once, and it's not my top film of the short film showcase. That's obviously Wash. I'd be lying if I said this one a close second, though, purely because I watched it once and I couldn't really put my finger on it. I liked it, but there was something that just weren't sitting right with me. And it just made me think about it more and more and more. And I can't remember I kind of fit this block in between a film,
Mm,
between two features. I just had enough time. And I remember that going into the feature that followed it, and like I say, I can't even remember what feature followed it because I was just thinking about this short and it just stayed with me. And I feel like the reason it worked was it's quite unsettling. And we were saying
mm.
this about Guest, right? And I feel like this does it, but in a very different way, in a very,
Yes, yeah, it's
folk
unsettling. Yeah,
horror. and it's very well put together. It's a very, very well crafted. And I don't use that word lightly. I feel when saying it's very well crafted, there's been a lot of time and effort put into the lore and building that world and building that mythology. And I feel like there is so much to dig into with this film.
This, do you know what? This could almost be a proof of concept for a longer film.
I was just going to say exactly that, man.
And I do wonder, because the acting was so good. I thought it was really top quality.
Yeah, I would love to see that. I would absolutely love to see it. I think it's such a great concept for a new folk horror film. Like that, just that setup of a motorist that, runs someone over or kills someone in a small village, a small, remote area, and they get their own revenge in a very unique, just in a very unique, very unset.
Do you know what? It is unique, because I was having to think about this, and obviously not all the time, but when you think of folk horror, straight away, someone is going to get murdered in some sort of sacrificial way to whatever they worship, and that's not what happens here, and it threw me.
Yeah,
it really threw me. What happens is not what I was expecting.
Yeah,
and it threw me in a good way. Because even if it had been, let's put him in a giant wicker man and set him on fire and whatnot, fine. I still reckon they would have done that very well. But it's because it was so unusual is what really hooked me to it.
I completely agree, man. So yeah, let's wrap it up by just recap your picks again, just so if people want to jot them down and go and find them, they can. So just say the titles again.
Breakfast, Paul Beattie, Tarrare, Brian Gillespie, and guest Finn Callan. And bonus one for me was a bit of fun, Florence Kosky. And then we've got Wash by Kiggs, which you absolutely love. Death Walks on Nitrate by Kevin Fermini. Bonus one for me was Markus Meedt's Werewolf. And then my top pick was Ciaran Lyons' The Motorist.
Yeah, guys, go and check them out. And please go and support, because, you don't know where these filmmakers are going to be in a couple of years. And hopefully they'll be turning either these ideas or some new ideas into features, because I think they're all outstanding.
More than a couple will go on.
They all done a terrific job. And I feel that apart from a couple of features that we're about to get into next, these were actually all my standout films of the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, so what one do you want to start with?
Right, so let's start with one that you actually recommended to me, a documentary called How to the Deadites.
I mean, what can I say? I'm a massive Evil Dead fan, or so I thought, until I saw the guys in this documentary.
And then you were put in your place.
I was firmly put in my place, Scott, because I thought it was going to be more the making of and a little bit of fans, but rather it was a little bit of making of and more all about the fans. So it wasn't exactly what I was expecting, but I was pleasantly surprised for that. I thought it was a brilliant documentary focusing on so-called super fans of the Evil Dead series. Had some great interviews with, of course, Bruce Campbell, Ted Raimi, who I think is fantastic. He plays Henrietta Nobi, who's my favourite Deadite in the franchise. Not surprisingly, Sam Raimi's not there to be interviewed, but
I was a little bit disappointed in that, but I mean that's the
way,
right?
I mean, you kind of feel like if you've got Bruce Campbell and you've got Ted Raimi, you're literally one step away from the main man.
But he doesn't do a lot, does he?
He doesn't know, and I think if you don't want to do it, he's not going to do it. To be fair, I was surprised they got Bruce Campbell. I just thought it was going to be very low key, following the fans, going to exhibitions. I wrote his name down somewhere and I forgot his name, but the special effects guy.
He's great, isn't he?
What a lovely bloke. He just seems like the nicest guy on earth. He seems so nice. I would love to go to his horror convention just to meet him. And he seems like the kind of guy that would happily spend an hour talking to you.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think this worked for me on so many levels, man. I'm so happy you recommended this. So before we get into what I really love about it, one of the things I do want to touch on, which I thought it was strange at first, then I thought it was a good choice, But I do think there might be an interesting story of what happened. Did you notice that when they were talking about the films, they never showed any clips from the actual films? They only ever showed fan films.
Is that right? I didn't notice that.
Yeah. So
did they show stills though?
No, not that I know of. I can't remember. Maybe they showed stills. But in terms of the video footage, they never ever show, or from what I could catch, it was never from the films, because when it first come up, I was like, that's not the film. That's not the Evil Dead. What's that? And yeah, it was. And then when you pay attention to the, the copyright at the bottom, yeah, it was all like fan films. Now I don't know if that was by design, because obviously it's about
That's
fans,
interesting. Yeah.
or they couldn't get the rights to the Evil Dead films to show clips of them, which I find very interesting. Either way, I just thought I'll bring it up because that was interesting. But to talk about what I love about this film, I kind of put a tweet out about it afterwards. I loved that this brought so much faith back to fandom, right? As in, this shows the reason why fandom is so great, why being a super fan is so great, because the reality is that fandom has become extremely toxic, whether that is horror fandom. I always go on about gatekeepers, right? You've got gatekeepers that are like, don't change this, don't do this different, don't do that. Like, fuck gatekeepers, man. I hate gatekeepers. And, me and you have spoke a lot off the air about we're both Star Wars fans. And unfortunately, Star Wars probably has the worst fandom in the world, right? It is the most toxic place in the world at the minute, because no one can agree on anything. And unfortunately, we seem to be in this kind of position of, if you don't like something, then it's terrible. And if you do like it, you're the worst person in the world, right? Which I find absolutely crazy.
To criticize things to the point of absolute hatred and vile language and personal attacks on other fans and on the people making these films. If you don't like it, go and do something better.
Right, exactly. And we see that in horror a lot. We see that in horror all the time, with the argument of, that isn't a horror film, this isn't a horror film, this is, it's bullshit. If you don't like this, you don't know what you're talking about. Or, I saw recently on Twitter where some girl criticized a documentary that is on Shudder and just said that it didn't work for her. And the amount of hate she got, and the amount of gatekeepers that were like, well, if you don't get it, you're not
That's
part
ridiculous.
of the crowd, you don't understand it, and it's like, look, she's just saying it weren't for her. Like, calm the fuck down. But these people feel like they're personally attacked, which I just find incredible.
Do you know, I wrote an article recently on the Blair Witch Project, which is one of my favorite horror films.
Yeah.
But it is completely polarizing. And in the piece I wrote why it's one of my favorite horror films and why I think it was so influential and so important. But I do acknowledge the criticisms that people had. Now, thankfully, I didn't get any kind of negative responses, but I wouldn't have been surprised if someone had said to me, the classic with the Blair Witch Project, you're stupid, you don't even see anything in it, which is, a valid point. You don't see anything. That doesn't make it a bad film, though. That's your opinion.
Well,
I
to me, that
respect
actually
that.
makes it a better film.
Exactly. We're allowed to disagree. We're allowed to like different things. We're allowed to not like different things. But it's the hurtful criticism of it. And to bring it back to the Evil Dead fan documentary, I do think horror particularly probably has the best fan base in the world.
Yeah, I agree. I think overall,
overall,
I think overall, especially in person.
yeah,
Like when you go to Frightfest, for instance, right? Normally at Frightfest, with the people I'll talk to all weekend, I don't normally agree with them on the films I like, and not normally the films everyone else likes, and vice versa. But what I love about it is we have a really good conversation about it, and we have conversations about why someone did like it, why I didn't like it, why they didn't like it, whatever it is. But we have really good conversations about it, and everyone respects each other's reasoning, right? And none of us are like, oh, you're stupid, you don't belong here. That is definitely like a keyboard warrior mentality of like when you're behind a keyboard, you know, people feel a lot stronger about their opinions.
Yeah.
But, you know, to bring it back around, what I really, really love about How to the Deadites is it shows you why fandom can be so great. It shows you why the horror community is so loving and welcoming. And, you know, the reality is for most of us, we grew up as outsiders, or we grew up as, you know, the kids that were into the creepy shit that were made fun of because of that. And then when you discover other like-minded people, it's such a welcoming, such a amazing community to be a part of. And I feel like
Completely.
this documentary really, really showcased that. And I really, really love that the filmmakers put all the emphasis on the fans and their relationships.
The one of the things that really stood out for me is Bruce Campbell kind of gives the character he presents, and he is a character, is very self-assured, very cocky,
Yeah,
you know, very, very aloof,
of course.
takes the piss out of the fans. He's on stage with them, and that's part of the act. That's what people like. And there's this guy does a crowdfunder to
Oh yeah.
meet Bruce Campbell,
Oh
and
yeah.
he says, and he calls it "Help me meet the Chin." And overnight he gets all the money, and he reckons he doesn't know for sure who did it, but it's pretty obvious that it was
I
Bruce
mean, he
Campbell that
definitely
gave
knows
the
who
money.
done
It,
He
it was
definitely.
it was him. You know, he basically sent the guy $800 just to go and meet him. And I think that's incredible, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like there was a lot of heart-wrenching moments. There's one moment that me and you have discussed, and actually I'm
Oh
not gonna,
man,
yeah, I'm
no,
not actually gonna bring it up because, you know, it's one of the
it
most
was it
heartfelt
was
moments in
it
this
was
film. But
beautiful but heartbreaking.
yeah,
And all I will say, if you watch it and you know what we're talking about, the strength of that guy and his family
oh,
is
it's
is
incredible.
incredible,
It's incredible.
absolutely incredible.
But it also shows you the importance that film and art can have. It
Yes,
really does. Like,
yeah,
you know, look, we as filmmakers, look, we're not, you know, rocket scientists. We're not heart surgeons, right? But there is a place for art. There's a reason why art is so polarizing, and music and film, whatever it may be, really does grab us and really
mm,
is the lifeblood of what we believe and how we shape our lives. And I feel like this documentary really captures that, and it shows you that how in very, very dark times a film such as The Evil Dead, right, who would have
mm,
thought could pull you through
exactly.
really, really dark times. And a big part of that is that community, and I feel like that's what he does really, really well. And it's something we're very passionate about. I mean, because I mean, look, we're talking about this on a podcast we put together purely because we love talking about horror
Hmm.
ourselves. But
Hmm.
people, you know, we've got a couple of people out there that genuinely asked for us to do this. You know, shout out to
Yeah,
Kimberly and Jackie, because without you two, we wouldn't be doing this podcast. It was you two that demanded we get going on this, and that's why we're here. So
yeah,
a film like
completely.
this that shows that love for fandom, man, it's really got me. It's really touched me.
Yeah, it was a beautiful film. It would be quite cool for them. I'd like to see if they do another one, maybe focusing on horror in general, because I think there's a lot more to be seen.
I completely agree.
Because obviously, Evil Dead, very famous, but it has its fans. Not everyone likes it. I'd like to see them do a wider scope of horror in general now for their next documentary.
Yeah, these filmmakers in general. I feel like there are a few of them horror documentaries out there, but some of them don't land. I feel like these guys behind House of the Deadites,
Yeah,
they've got a real grasp on fandom and community.
yeah,
And I'd
they get
love,
it.
I agree, man. I'd absolutely love to see that. I really, really would. So yeah, guys, we're going to leave it there on How to the Deadites. Definitely check it out. I think this is coming to a few more film festivals, and hopefully, you know, we'll hit VOD at some point, so you know you can watch it from
No, that'd
home.
be cool. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, really, 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 really good film. All right, dude. So the next one I'm going to touch on is one I recommended, and out the gate, I want your thoughts because it was the first time I watched this film. The reason I recommended it is my composer from Black Mass, Mitch. He rescored this film, and I thought the film was absolutely beautiful. I thought it was absolutely stunning, and it's my second favorite film of the year, and it's called A Ghost Waits. What were your thoughts, dude?
Wasn't sure what to expect.
Of course.
Um, I enjoyed it very much. I liked the idea behind the film. I thought the effects were really, really good. I thought the acting was great. I loved the touches of comedy. I think before the comedy really hit, I think the guy who's checking the house over, he really nailed it with his level of reactions to the kind of hauntings that were happening.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you think, oh, well, you wouldn't stick around at that point, you'd be gone, or you wouldn't shrug that off. And I just thought he pitched it very well with his reactions all the way through. I mean, and then obviously when the comedy kicks in, it's that goes out the window to move the story forward. However, I'm actually going to say I was a little disappointed with the ending.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah,
Reason being?
it's going to be difficult for me to say without giving it away, but
Okay.
I thought it was an easy way out of the ending.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed the film. I really liked this film. I was hoping though that the inevitable ending, they could have found a different way to get there. I didn't like the
Interesting.
actions that led to that ending.
Interesting. Okay.
Am I
Okay.
making sense? It's really
Yeah.
difficult
No.
without
Yeah. Without
without
spoiling it. I
spoiling what
know. I
happens.
know. Yeah. No. You're making perfect sense. The ending did work for me actually. Yeah. I did see it coming. I kind of knew it was going that way, but for me, I was okay with that because the way they handled it and the way it built up.
And
In terms of
they did a
everything,
good job of justifying it. I suppose
yes,
is the
yes,
best term. They did a good job. I mean, it made sense, and I liked everything post that moment as well. So kind of in the end credits as well, what was going on and what was happening in the house. I liked that. It made perfect sense. And don't get me wrong, Scott. I don't know what I would have liked better. I was
of
just
course.
hoping it could have been something
Yeah,
different.
yeah. I mean, that's fair enough, man. That's like I said, it's fair enough to have those reactions
Mm,
and to still enjoy a film, still appreciate a film, but also wanted it to go another way. I think that's
mm,
perfectly fine. If we're coming back round to Mitch and Black Mass, we were all very happy with the way we were ending that film and the way we were going with that film. But
yeah,
for those that didn't like the film, our ending is extremely polarizing for some people.
yeah.
And, we've had 1-star reviews based on
See, here's the
that ending.
thing though. You could argue that it's a similar kind of ending.
Yes.
However, I really liked it in Black Mass. I'm not opposed to it as a concept in film. I just, for some reason, it didn't gel with me in A Ghost Waits. I don't know why. I suppose because
Maybe it was the comedy element.
I think it was. I think it was. It kind of that didn't align for me
Yeah.
with what happens.
Yes.
Whereas obviously
Okay.
in Black Mass, there's a steady build to what and some people may well feel it's coming, and it makes it no less impactful. But it all made sense. I
Yeah.
suppose for me, this is the one thing in A Ghost Waits that didn't make sense
Yeah.
to me.
And that's fine. I mean, again, I've always said this. Like, I say it about my own work. For those that don't like Black Mass or don't like the way I ended it or stuff, like that's absolutely fine too. Like, I
Mm,
think everyone's opinion, especially if you can share that opinion in a perfectly critical way, like
yes.
like you're doing yourself with Ghost Waits. I think that's fine. But bringing it back to A Ghost Waits, I feel like if we're going to touch on everything before the ending, then I feel like this film was great. I felt like the cast were outstanding.
Yeah,
Like the
I don't
cast
know
were
her name.
great.
I've forgotten her name. The lady who plays the ghost. Man,
Oh,
I thought she was so good.
Natalie Walker, I believe
Yes, that is
is
it.
her name.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
is it.
she
Yeah.
was great.
I
The
mean,
dude that plays Jack, the lead character, McLeod Andrews, I believe.
I even like the guy on the phone you never see.
Yeah,
I thought it
yeah.
was really
I thought
good.
it was really good. I thought it was really, really good. There's a lot in this film that I'm not sure exactly where the influences come from, but I feel like there was a bit of Beetlejuice in this with a few of the scenes.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, that I really like. Again, no real spoilers for them, but yeah, I feel like there's a little bit of Beetlejuice in there, which I really, really like. I just thought as an independent film, they done a stellar job, man. They over delivered. Like for me, like there were a lot of films that would not deliver something this kind of. It's weird to say heartwarming, but you really do buy into the characters, and you
Yeah,
really do
yeah.
feel for the characters, and I love that struggle that especially the lead character Jack goes through.
Do you know, this is a big lesson to people in terms of, the cost of effects in film. And there are no doubt some expensive effects that they use. But one of the most effective things for me would have been absolutely free to them. And that was, he goes around the house putting little bits of sticky tape on things, marking as, yeah, I've
Oh
checked that, I've
yes,
checked that.
yes,
He goes around again, they're all gone.
and
I
yeah,
thought that was incredibly
yeah.
effective. And his first thought isn't haunting. It could be, am I going mad? Did I even do that, or is someone messing about with me? Do you know?
They are extremely clever with the way they use their budget in this,
Yeah,
and they they know how to put a bang for your buck on screen. Right, there's a lot of
mm,
choices in this that I
at the right
absolutely adore.
points.
I mean, the fact that every time you see the ghost characters, they clearly just have like a torch underneath their chin that
Yeah,
illuminates up,
yeah,
but it's so effective and
yeah,
it
and maybe
works so
sometimes a
well.
hairdryer in the face.
Yeah. Oh my God, it works so
It's
well,
brilliant.
man. I just love it. I absolutely love it. I
Practical
just,
effects.
yeah, this is one of those indie films that is a real like love affair. I think for
Mm,
like indie film fans that it works for. And it's again, I've seen some people that this doesn't work for, and that's fine as well. But for those that this does work for and those that do get it, even someone like yourself that really liked it up until the ending and then you just wish the ending went away, I just feel like this is one of those films that
mm.
you definitely will go back to at some point. This
Yeah, I
isn't
mean,
like a one and done,
I would
which I feel
definitely
like a
watch
lot
it
of
again.
festival films are.
Yeah,
Like there's a
yeah,
lot of films that you watch. There's a lot of films for this for the digital edition of Frightfest that I watched, and I was like, okay, that was cool, but I don't really need to go back and watch that again. A Ghost Waits. I'm going back. Like I'll go back. I'll watch this again.
yeah, definitely. I would watch this again. I mean, everything I swore and enjoyed is something I would watch again, and that's really the biggest compliment you
Yeah,
can give some,
yeah,
because even though the surprise is gone, you still want to see it again. And that's sometimes it's because you enjoyed it. Sometimes it's because you feel that there's more that can be gained from watching it again. Just as a brief example, and the other film that I watched was There's No Such Thing as Vampires, which I really loved. I would watch that again in a second, not because I think I'd learn anything new, just because I really enjoyed it as a film. I thought it worked really well, and the same for this one is I really enjoyed it. I don't think I would learn anything more from watching it again, but I think it's the sort of film I enjoyed it so much it deserves a second viewing to see how I feel again about the ending.
yeah, yeah. I agree with that. And I think in closing on A Ghost Waits, I just want to touch on briefly Mitch's score for this. I unfortunately I wasn't able to make the Glasgow edition of Fright Fest, despite Black Mass having its Scottish premiere there. Luckily Mitch was there for that. So he represented the film.
Mm,
But A
mm.
Ghost Waits did make its premiere at that same festival, but it had a different score. So I would have loved to have seen that just to see what the difference was. So I can only go on this version, unfortunately.
Yeah,
But in terms of the music for this film, I thought it was great. I thought it was
yeah, it was.
understated when it needed to be understated. I thought it took over when it needed to take over. It was, and I could just tell, having worked with Mitch, the pieces that I feel, I could be wrong, but the pieces I feel he put in there really jumped out to me. And the guy is such a fucking talent. Like he
Mm.
really, really is. Like if we've got any filmmakers out there that are looking for a composer and someone that can just do everything, and believe me, like he can do everything, tap him up. Tap him up. This guy is, this guy's going to the fucking moon. You know,
Do you know what?
we're,
And
we're just along for the ride.
I can give a completely unbiased view on that. I don't know Mitch. I know of him, but I know his work, and I think it's incredible. I think it worked really well in this. I loved it in Black Mass. Yeah, he's a clear talent.
Yes. Oh, he's a hell of a talent. And like I said, the guy is going places. So yeah, shout out to Mitch. Incredible work. And yeah, just in closing, shout out to everyone on this film. I thought absolutely outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. I absolutely loved it. And talking about films I love.
Wow.
Right. Wow. That's just the way
That's
you
all I
go.
can say.
Right.
Might as well
Right.
end it.
So it's a film called The Swerve, which I have brought up multiple times. This is like our Chris, 7th episode, and I feel like every fucking episode I've brought it up.
Yeah, I mean, we had it as a trailer last
We
time,
had it.
didn't
Yeah,
we?
we had it as a trailer last time, and
We
it's just a
definitely
film
spoke
I
about
do.
it the time before.
Oh man, so I originally saw this film at Panic Fest. I've been dying to see it again.
So this is your second
This
viewing.
is my second viewing, and I tell you what, I was really, really interested to see how it played for me at Panic Fest. I watched it in a cinema, right? So this I was watching at home, so I waited to see how that differed for me. Would I be as invested not only on a second viewing but watching at home, where I'm not scared to admit I am quite easily distracted. Sometimes this is actually why I do love going to the cinema, because dark room, turn everything off. You just concentrate on the screen. At home, I get distracted quite easily. No, this grabbed me again. I maybe enjoyed this even more the second time because
Really?
because I knew where it was going, and we're getting to that briefly in a minute, because I really, really want your views on this. But because I knew where it was going, it allowed me to pay attention to that journey, to that path. I was looking more for the signs. There's a lot in this film that is left open for interpretation.
Yeah.
Stuff that was openly discussed at Panic Fest. I remember having multiple conversations with people at Panic Fest about certain elements in this film. What did that mean? What did that mean? Go on. What do you think?
I'm desperate to watch this film again.
Yes.
If you said to me I can watch one thing again from Frightfest, it would be this, hands down. Because as I was saying just now, this is very definitely a case of watch it again and you'll get more.
Yes.
It's really one of those films that every time you watch it, there's something to be found. A very simple story of a woman struggling with stress and her mental health, possibly eating disorders as well, and some very bad things happen to her. But as the film goes on, it's, as you say, it's left open to interpretation. She's an unreliable narrator to the point where you don't know if what's happened to her has happened to her. It seems like everyone in her life she mistrusts, and has done something bad to her in some way. And I think the lady who plays the lead was incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Stunning performance. I couldn't fault it. I thought it was a brilliant film.
Oh man, like, where do I start? So the acting across this film is outstanding. From the lead to the supporting cast to Ashley Bell, who is probably, to most horror fans, probably the most recognizable because of The Last Exorcism, where she played Nell. It's outstanding. It's outstanding across the board in terms of acting. It's a stellar cast.
Even the minor roles of her children.
The minor, all great, all great. Now I have to give serious fucking credit to the screenplay for that, because what these actors have to work with is pitch perfect. What I love about this film is, like you said, it's on the surface quite a simple setup. It is a woman descending into the darkest depths of her mind, right? Into the darkest depths of her depression. But the way in which they go there is extremely well put together. It's extremely complicated in a way, because what I love about this film, what I really noticed on a second viewing, is no one in this film, including the lead character, is completely innocent. They all do stuff that is wrong, yet there is also a path laid out to where you see where they go. Like the husband is like your main villain in this film. However,
Yes.
his character and the life around him, the world around him, is wrote so pitch perfect that you kind of see his descent as well into what he does.
Yeah.
Because you see the this pressure that he's put on himself with his job, and then his relationship with his kids and his relationship with his
Yeah.
wife and everything that's going on there, and he in his mind just feels like he can't catch a break. And then you've got obviously our lead character and her complete descent into chaos. You've got that then supported by her kids, supported by her sister, supported by her mum, supported by her pupils at school, and one pupil in particular who, again, absolutely fantastic. The characters in this film all feel real. They all feel real. They feel
Yes.
like
Yeah.
real people. They feel like real people with real problems, with real struggles. Now, I'm not going to get into exactly how this ends, but I love the way this ends. The way this end is so fucking
Yes.
tragic,
Yeah.
but there is poetry to it. There is real poetry to the way this film ends. Oh, it's so good, man. And there's so much else you can dig into, right? Like there's this whole subplot in the house with there's like a rat or a
Yeah.
little mouse,
The whole thing with the pies.
right? It's incredible.
I
It's
I
absolutely
actually
incredible.
I interpreted the husband a little differently.
Okay.
So I agree that he's basically the villain of the piece,
Yeah,
if there is a villain.
of
Um,
course. Yeah.
but I wasn't so sure he necessarily did what she perceived him to do.
Right. Interesting. Yeah.
He may
Interesting.
well have done.
See, I did think about this too. Yeah.
I got the sense that everything that she thinks happened to her did, or it didn't, or some did and some didn't. But what I did think was true with the husband, absolutely, was how emotionally manipulative he was of her to keep her in her box, to keep
Interesting.
making sure, no matter what she says, well, you need to take your medication. Are you still taking your
Yeah.
medication? What I think was an absolute triumph is, and I don't know that, I mean, we're both very open about it. I don't know if we've mentioned it on here before, but we've both suffered with mental health issues.
Yep.
And I think that the way she descended was very believable. I thought it was very, very believably done.
Well, I tell you what I really liked about what they done with this film around mental health, and like you said, we've both been very open about it. Me and you both have mental health struggles. I mean, it's no secret that my last film, Black Mass, was born out of my struggles with depression. Here's what I really, really like about this, which I feel a lot of films don't do, a lot of media pieces don't do, and something that is still quite, I don't know if it's frowned upon, but people just don't like talking about it, is the reality is that when you struggle with mental health, it doesn't just affect you, it also affects everyone around you. Now, that is not saying that makes you a bad person or that makes anyone a villain, but that is the reality of it. That is the reality of when I was suffering with depression really bad, when I was at my absolute lowest, it affected everyone around me. It affected, the people that are closest to me in my life. It affected them. It affected the point of view where I had built up a crew of people where we make films, and I wasn't making films for over a year or 2 years and not doing anything. And it affects everyone in different ways, because I think that's the thing with mental health we don't like talking about, is it isn't as black and white as some people like to make it out. It affects everyone in different ways. No one's the hero, no one's the villain. That's just the reality of it. And I think this film should that perfectly. I really, really do.
Yeah, it wasn't actually quite what I was expecting
Okay.
when I saw the trailer. I mean, it wasn't far off, but I was expecting. Do you know what? Do you know what I thought? I thought
Well, you
that
said Ari Aster, didn't you,
I did. Yeah,
on the last
yeah.
episode?
I thought it was going to be more overtly horrific. I thought it was going to be more scary, and I'm not. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily even call this a straight out horror. Not that that's a bad thing at all. I I thought it was going to have more of real kind of dare I say, jump scares. I
Yes,
thought that's what
yeah,
I was expecting in
yeah.
there.
Well, it's funny your comparison to Ari Aster. I didn't really want to get into it before you had seen it, but I think there is a real similarity between this film and Midsummer.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
I will straight up say I think this is a better film than Midsummer, because I really like Midsummer, but I think what weighs Midsummer down is trying to make it too much of a horror film and not straight up focusing on the real life horror, like by adding in the supernatural elements. And again, don't get me wrong, I love Midsummer. I think Midsummer's a very, very good film. I just feel like in terms of that core story, the swerve just comes out ahead.
yeah. I mean, I can completely see what you're saying about Midsummer as well, because if you take out the horror elements of Midsummer, it's still a very familiar story of a lady who struggling with mental health and a sense of place and
Yeah.
where she belongs. The horror is on the periphery.
Yeah.
It's neither here nor there. I mean, obviously, it's built around that, but it didn't have to be. Whereas the Swerve is built around the story
Yes.
and the feelings and the outlook of this central character.
Yeah. So do you know what? I don't want to. I don't want to dig into the story too much because I know there's a few of you listening that haven't seen this, and I want you to kind of go in as blind as possible because I think
Yes,
then that's that
yeah.
film. So to end, the one thing I will ask you though, and I don't think this is spoiling anything because there is no defining answer to it. How did you interpret the side story with the mouse?
So to me, I kind of interpreted that as her trying to hold on to her normal life, as
Interesting. Okay.
something to focus on, as a piece of normality, really. But I think her reaction to it was kind of horrific as well. So it was almost like it mirrored her reaction to what was happening in her own life as well.
Yes. Yes.
Because some of her reactions were quite over the top. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like mice, but still, it was,
Yeah.
it was pretty extreme.
I interpreted as the mouse was her. It was like her struggle,
Interesting. Yeah.
right? Because like that, because the mouse is just trying to survive. It doesn't want to hurt anyone. It doesn't want to scare anyone, but it is struggling to survive. It is feeding off the crumbs that are left behind. It's feeding off of the leftovers, but no one really cares about it. No one wants to look after it. All anyone wants to do is kill it, essentially. And
Yes.
it
Yeah.
serves no purpose other than fear for our main character. And I interpret that as that was basically her, because for me, that's what she's trying to do. She's trying to stay afloat. She is trying to find her place in this family. You know, as her kids are growing up, as her husband's spending more time at work, she is just being left at home on her own to defend for herself, picking up the scraps and the crumbs of what everyone else is leaving behind.
Mm.
And yeah, that for me was how I interpreted it. But I don't think there's a definitive answer to it, and I love that. I love that that was put in just so we can talk about it and discuss it.
I mean, do you? I mean, I feel the same about the pie. Do you have a view on what the pies symbolize throughout the film?
No, I mean yes, lesser so, but yeah, I mean, go. What's your interpretation of the pie?
I actually see. I focused on the pie more than the mouse, interestingly.
Interesting.
And I was very intrigued by, there's this running thing all the way through about pies, and I wasn't really sure where it was going.
Yeah,
But what I found very interesting was there's a moment when you actually see her eating some pie, and she completely freaks out when another character
yeah,
tries to
yeah,
tries to eat some as well. And I kind of felt like I interpreted it as that was her um, trying to isolate herself from everything else that was happening. So I kind of felt like it was almost like if she can eat this pie, then everything will be okay. If that kind of makes sense. It felt like to me that it was her singular place where she was on her own. It's just her and
Okay,
her food, and to hell with everything else. I'm just gonna eat this food for that
interesting. Okay.
for that particular. But I mean, on the other hand, it could also be that there was mention of anorexia in the film, and there is a long running theme of laughing at her because she used to be overweight when she was a child as well.
Well, so my interpretation of the pie was twofold. It was one, that's where all our trouble started,
Yeah,
right? Like we get the backstory of where her and her sister are at her nan's when they were kids, and the pie went missing, and her sister blamed it on her, and then her nan and everyone, and it's this funny family story because she used to be overweight, but obviously that's where her mental health issues start, right? Because obviously when we pick up with her, there is this idea that she's suffering with an eating disorder as well as her overarching mental health issues. But if I'm honest, it more represented the ideal suburban American dream that she
yeah,
was trying to, because what's more American than a humble American pie? When we pick up with her, she's living this suburban life that she can't really get a handle on. So it's this idea of you should have the kids, you should have the husband has the good job, he goes to work, he makes the money, the kids go to school, you're this American housewife. And yeah, the pie, yeah, for me, the pie just represents all those troubles.
mm,
And again, I
yeah.
just don't think there's any definitive answer to it, but I love that. I absolutely love that.
And that's the other thing when you mention it like that, on the face of it, she has everything that she could ask for. So it says a lot about mental health isn't that simple
Yes.
as well.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's what I
Uh,
mean. It just mental health isn't black and white, and I feel like
no,
this film
exactly.
does such a good job at portraying that, man. I just feel like this is the mark of a really good film, right? And me and you could easily do an hour about the bloody pie,
Which yeah,
and
completely. I mean,
that's a bloody side, that's a side note in the film,
I
but
just really
we could
want to
dig
watch
into
it
that for
again.
days. Oh,
I really
yeah.
I need to see it again. It was
I've
so
watched
good.
this twice now, and if this, if they put up a Blu-ray for pre-order tonight, you bet your ass I'm pre-ordering it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I just love this film. I love this film, and this is my film of the year. I've
Was it
watched
a
it twice.
first? Is it a first feature for the director?
Yes, yes, it is. Yeah,
Wow.
what a
Wow.
way to come out of the gate, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what these guys do next. I really, really can't. Like I touched on before, I did have the pleasure of meeting them. They're the most down to earth, amazing people, and they have made one of the best debut features I have ever seen.
I can't disagree with that. I think it's
Yeah,
stunning.
man.
So I was going to say, it seems like a film from someone much more mature in their filmmaking,
Right.
someone who's
Right.
done it for years, and evidently not.
Oh, exactly. Like if they're coming out the gate with this, where they're going to be in
Yeah.
5 films time, these are these are people to watch, without a doubt. I think on that note, man, we can't really get better than that, can we? So I
No,
think we should
just
wrap it up there.
go and watch it.
Yes, go and
Abs
watch it.
go and watch
Go and
this
watch it.
film.
Go and watch it, please. And yeah, go and search out all these films. I know they're all still touring festivals, and hopefully we're gonna get a couple of these again at the physical edition of Frightfest in October, if that does go ahead. And it's to be seen how they're going to do that. But yeah, hopefully some people get to see these on the big screen, and hopefully they get to hit VOD, so you can check them out in the comfort of your own home as well.
And we'll have we'll write up in the description all the films that we mentioned as
Yes,
well.
definitely. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Bit of a longer episode today, but we could go on forever. To be honest,
Yeah,
these films really got us. They really stood out to
it's
us.
a great weekend.
Yeah. So bit of a different episode, bit of a different format. Next week we'll be back to our usual horror happenings, and obviously ending with our creepy link of the week. So I can't wait to see what you've got lined up, Chris.
It's just another week to wait for the
Oh.
absolute weirdest, scariest thing
Can't wait.
you could imagine.
Can't wait. Really can't wait. All right, dude. It's been a really good one. Thank you so much for joining me again.
No problem.
And yeah, Horror Hounds, until next time, stay safe.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.